joining us right now, Lurie's here, of course, is a pediatric neuro-oncologist at the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, head of developmental therapeutics and pharmacology, NIH distinguished scholar, and cancer survivor, and a woman with a beautiful smile. Let me welcome Dr. Sadhana Jackson. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
I'm so blessed and so happy and have a lot of pleasure in order to be able to speak with everyone this afternoon, this evening.
Listen, she came ready with her, is that Kente? What kind of earrings are those?
I was going to say, how did you not mention the earrings? Those are epic.
I'm on it. You know I'm on it. I am on it.
These are handmade, custom-made earrings by Live, Laugh, Be Jeweled. Dr. Erica Boone, who also works at the NIH, crafts these beautiful jewelry art pieces, and so I'm happy to support her and wear her artwork on my ears this afternoon.
Drop her website in the chat here before you leave.
In the chat.
I will. Live Life, Be Jeweled.
So you heard our conversation with our lovely family member about taking the vaccine. You are a cancer survivor, but you're also in this space as a doctor, and of course, you're going to share your story. But what's your take on the vaccine? Lurie was saying how folk are coming from middle-class neighborhoods into the hood where there's a lot of vaccine and we're not lining up for it.
Yeah, so I'm speaking as a citizen, also as a physician, also as a daughter, also as a sister, also as a mother. It is very important for us to wear our masks, keep our distance, wash our hands. I am also a proponent of getting the vaccine. And I see my sisters and brothers dying from this very serious illness of COVID-19, where some people have symptoms and other people do not. So it is very sad and it's very serious. I have gotten my first vaccine inoculation. I will get my second one this evening. I'm a big proponent of being vaccinated and being just safe and cautious. Now, I have talked with various family members who have chronic illnesses and who do not have chronic illnesses, and they say, I don't know, I don't trust it, I'm not quite sure. And so you have to be understanding of people's, of course, opinions and their willingness to have due diligence. And so what my family members and friends have said, the ones that have been very cautious about whether or not to get vaccinated, is I want to wait to see what more people get the vaccine and see what happens. And so I can understand that, because honestly, if they're not in this high risk category, likely that they won't get it in the first few rounds. And so then that does give them a little bit of time to see that it's okay, and that numbers start to plummet down in terms of hospitalizations and deaths.
Well, I'm in that camp, by the way. Full disclosure, I'm waiting.
And I think that is I think that is important for people, physicians and non-physicians, to understand that people aren't all there in terms of, I'm definitely going to go and get it tomorrow. So you're not saying no, is that correct?
No, I'm not saying no. I'm going to get it after I see everybody else get it that I know.
And I think that's fair. And that's my opinion. And I think that that's fair.
You also, as a doctor, and you look so young to be, not that cancer has an age, but you think of, turning on those cancer cells, because we all have them. So I brought you on today because it's Wellness Wednesday, but also, I want to start these conversations because, after the election, it's time for us to get back to business, which is to be healthy, wealthy, and wise. And without our health, yes, we're still in a pandemic, so we're going to deal with that. But there's so many other factors. And unfortunately, Black people are disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 because of our underlying conditions. I was talking to a famous person last night who said, everybody in his industry right now that he knows around him has COVID-19. And he's like, I got diabetes and high blood pressure. If I get COVID, I know I'm probably going to die. And he said that with such conviction that it broke my heart. But the fear, but yet he has to work. So he's like, I don't have the luxury to sit home.
Right. So that's what's just so sobering about the numbers, because a lot of us are on the front line. That's the jobs that we have. And so that we are there, not just caring for the people, but sometimes we're there helping to care for the people who are caring for the people. And so we are the ones that have caught the virus at a higher and disproportionate rate. but we're also the ones that need to make sure that we stay in contact with our physicians and making sure that we are on top of taking our medicines and taking our blood pressure where we need to take our blood pressure. Because what we found, now specifically in the cancer community, is that people are being underdiagnosed and undertreated during this pandemic because they're just like, I don't want to go to the hospital, even if I have symptom X, Y, or Z, and I know I have cancer because I don't want to catch COVID. And so it just becomes a tricky imbalance to making sure that you ensure you have good health overall, but just making sure that you have preventative practices to be able to have you not to get sicker.
Listen, I went to the doctors today because I was scheduled to go to the doctors, and I almost canceled because I'm like, second wave of COVID, new strain. But I was like, I got to go to the doctor. I have to make sure all of everything is correct. I need to know just for my peace of mind, because every little thing now is like, oh, I didn't go to the doctors. Could this be a thing? If it's a thing, I'm not going to the doctors. I don't want to get that. I went through that same thing this morning, Dr. Jackson. I went through that same thing, and then I got myself up out
and so
of
that's
here.
a common conversation and discussion that people are having in their minds over this year that they wouldn't have had. They would have said, oh, I have this ailment, I'm going to the ER, I'm going to the urgent care, no problem. So what I want to reiterate today, again, as a physician, not as a COVID physician expert, is that the hospitals, funny enough, and the doctor's offices are one of the safest places to go if you think you have symptoms, because those buildings, those industries specifically are being super safe about who's coming and going. At the different facilities in this area, I can attest to, they're screening people in the parking garage. They're screening people before they even come into the building. They're screening people before they even come into the office, checking temperatures and or saying, do you have this symptom, this symptom, this symptom? If so, yes, do not come in. And so you may have experienced that too when you went to your doctor's office, that they were super careful about who was coming in and out. You don't see that at the grocery store. So not to try to put fear into people, but really but to really educate them that the doctor's office, the clinic, the ER are really one of the safer places in terms of screening who's sick and who's not sick for you to be around and to potentially contract the virus from.
866-801-8255. We have a doctor in the house, so I would love to hear from y'all if you have questions. You are, not a COVID specialist. You're an oncologist for children, right? And that has to be heartbreaking to see children with cancer, but you're also a cancer survivor. Can you tell us a little bit about your cancer journey? I don't even call it a journey. When did you discover you had it and you were already a doctor?
Lord have mercy. Yes. So it's so funny. So I'll backtrack it a little bit, because I got diagnosed and I said, well, dear God, I have been a cancer caretaker. I have been a cancer doctor. I am a cancer researcher. Why me? I've checked all the boxes in terms of being able to help and be able to be there for everybody else with cancer and help solve questions about cancer. Why me? And so I still ask that question, but I think I have a solution for why it was me. So really from a younger age, I would say high school, college, they noticed that I had a kind of, I'll say a enhanced, a thicker neck. And so for a while I was getting ultrasounds of my thyroid because they were concerned that I had something called a goiter, which is kind of basically a big thyroid. And so your thyroid is in your neck. It's in the shape of a bow tie. And so over time, they were making sure that my bow tie wasn't getting bigger. And they saw that it was getting bigger. And it was during my training for fellowship, neuro-onc fellowship. So I've had a long journey in terms of training. So you say I look young, this is the good makeup and the dentistry and and the earring. And,
great jeans.
Black don't crack,
Black don't crack.
So all of that. But with that, so in my journey in terms of being specifically a pediatric neuro-oncologist, it was one of my routine exams with my endocrinologist where I had to get an ultrasound, and they said, this side looks a little bit bigger. We see some enlarged lymph nodes. Lymph nodes are the area that hold these white blood cells. White blood cells fight off infection. White blood cells are what comes in if you do have cancer cells going on somewhere in your body. And she said, let's get a biopsy. And I said, okay. So I went to go get a biopsy. Now, let me tell you, this is what's important, I would say, in terms of being a very in tune doctor with your patients. Have some personality, be down to earth, and don't be rude, okay? So I had this, I'll say a male doctor who had no personality. And so he knew that I was a physician because I said it. I always will tell people, just kind of give them the heads up. He said, okay, I'm going to do your procedure today. I said, okay. And he said, I think it's going to be cancer. I wanted to
Oh my God.
fight him. I wanted to shake him. And I understood he was in training. So he was a resident. So he took that as, I'm going to do a procedure all excited and I'm going to get it right. I know I am. And because I fit the bill in terms of textbook, I was this young, had this enlarged, I'll say bow tie, had been having these things followed, and we saw these lymph nodes where the white blood cells live. It turned out to be cancer. This was 2014 I was diagnosed. And so I was 34 at that time. Oh shoot, I'm telling people my age now.
That's all right. And now we know you're actually young. So go ahead, continue. Knock it off.
I was 34 at that time. So it was devastating to me because I'd had this bow tie for a while and I was fine with it. I mean, I was married at the time. I was cute enough. I was able to be happily with this bow tie. And so I was diagnosed. They said, you need to have your thyroid removed. You need to get this special treatment called radioactive iodine, and you can keep on pressing on. And I did keep on pressing on. And so I can say that this experience was very challenging. It was very sad. Sadly, I was diagnosed a year after my mother had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and I had helped her through that journey. And then next thing you know, I get diagnosed and she's helping me through my journey. So in terms of being able to learn from that experience, I am now that much more empathetic with my patients who don't have thyroid cancer, who have brain cancer, but I can hold their hand a little bit tighter and really understand their journey, the journey of what is the true discovery of having this disease, being able to be diagnosed, not having an empathetic doctor at one point in my journey, and then just saying, cancer does not make that person. You can be a cancer survivor, or a lot of people like it to be stated cancer thriver. And cancer is only one aspect of your life. So I am still a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend, a caretaker, a doctor, and Black woman.
Yes, you are. Dr. Jackson is here. Dr. Jackson, you can follow her at DrSadhanaj. Sadhana. Did I say that correctly? Sadhana. What's the origin of the name?
Sadhana is an Indian Sanskrit name. And so the correct pronunciation is Sadhana. It's an Indian name. Sadhana. And so it actually means devotion, or the one who searches for light and truth. So deep, right?
Yeah, because that's
so my parents are not Indian. My one grew up, born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida, went to Edward Waters College. That's my father. And then another grew up, born and raised in Newport News, Hampton, Virginia, went to Hampton University. But they just fell in love with the name, and they fell in love with the meaning of the name. And it just happens to be that I'm super curious and super passionate. And so it just fits in line with who I am.
I believe you speak that when you name somebody, which is why we got to not name our children Cristal and Moe. Anyway, 866-801, no judgment.
What about Shonda?
Look, no both clicos, none of that. All right, 866-801-8255. What is cancer? I said, we all have cancer cells. Some can go your whole life and never turn them on, right? They're always there. What turns on the cancer cells, and how do we, I don't know if you can prevent it, but how do we live a lifestyle that makes it less likely that we'll turn on those cancer cells?
So Karen, that is the zillion dollar question, because not all cancer is created equal. So you have to think about, there's certain cancers that are really highly connected to smoking or alcohol. And so those are the ones that can be prevented. In the case of brain cancer, there's only certain types of brain cancers that really are preventable. And those are the ones that we say, if you've ever had radiation exposure to your brain, then that puts you at higher risk to develop brain cancer.
Like the 1980 cell phones. All right, I said it. Go ahead, conspiracy theory. We'll move on. You don't have to respond.
I hear you. So we found, for example, back in the day, this is 70s, 80s, certain people had leukemia, which is a type of cancer of the blood. And so the treatment way back in the day was to give radiation to the spine, because some people had leukemia in different areas. And so those patients, we saw them coming up more and more with brain cancer 10, 12, 20 years after they had, been cured of their leukemia. So then we were able to see, oh, that's one connection. But there's several different other types of cancers where we do not know what the inciting reason for why it is. And the type of brain cancer that I treat, this is glioblastoma. This is what we call high-grade glioma. This is very aggressive. This is the type of tumor that John McCain had. This is the type of tumor that Beau Biden had. Men are affected more than women. Children also get this same type of cancer, and it's really poor prognosis, but we have not been able to link this specific type of brain cancer with any one food or weather change or drug, and it's sad. It's sad. So we continue to do the research. We continue to be curious about what more we can know about not just this type of brain cancer, but learn about other cancers to be able to connect.
I have a question just as it pertains to this really rapid advancement of the vaccine that we saw for COVID, and we learned a lot from speaking with other doctors about the mRNA technology and how that was able to sort of hyper warp speed. I don't even want to use that phrase, but just really accelerate the amount of time it took to get the vaccine to be able to actually be injected into arms. Does that type of technology pose any promise for oncology and for cancers? And I'm asking because it seems as though we had an investment of massive amounts of dollars, unprecedented amounts of dollars. We had guarantees given to vaccine development companies. Would something like that framework also be useful in the cancer context?
I think yes and no. Yes, in the context where there is a lot of involvement and there's a lot of passion around finding the cure. No, in the context of there are so many different types of cancer, and cancer is super, super smart. Not to say that the COVID virus is not super, super smart, but cancer has definitely been around for a long time. And in terms of the amount of mutations and changes that it makes over time, even if we give it certain types of therapies, it's different a few months after we give the therapy. Wow. There's just so many different types of cancer that it's hard to be able to say, we're going to use this same exact formula that we use for the COVID-19 vaccine generation as for the treatment for cancer. So I think in terms of the passion and the importance for finding treatments, absolutely we can utilize it. Some of these platforms, absolutely. But to just kind of plug and play, unfortunately, no.
Well, there's my medical analysis.
No, I mean, but
I'll stick to the law.
I love your curiosity. I love it. I love your curiosity. We need it. We need it.
I mean, I'm sure that's what took you down this rabbit hole, Dr. Jackson, to even be this kind of doctor. Was there something in your life? Talk about that when you come back. When we come back, we got to go to break. Can you stick around? I didn't ask you that first. Can you stick around? Yeah. Okay. Dr. Jackson sticking around. So if you got questions. Dr. Sadhana, that's how you say that, but it's Sadhana, right? Say it.
You got it.
Okay. Jackson, she's in the building. Before you tell us how you landed on oncology, Dr. Kelly wanted to know on Twitter, and I'm always going to pay deference to the medical field, about poultry. He said our colleagues want to know about meat and how that has an impact. And so I said, all right, I'm going to ask, since she's still here, I'm going to ask her
Okay.
about it. Ask the oncologist about foods like poultry and beef, and the documentary Game Changers, and What the Health, which talks about all of the toxins in meat. Should we go vegan?
So, okay, I'm going to speak as just being a citizen. I have been a vegetarian/vegan all my life. So my parents, I loved them dearly, but they were tree huggers before we were all born. So they decided that they listened to Dick Gregory. Yeah, Dick Gregory. And he was on the, you need to be mindful of what you put in your body. And so they decided that they were going to go vegan a long, long, long time ago. And so as a result, I grew up as a vegetarian vegan, and I still am to this day, outside of me being an oncologist. And I know that more recently, documentaries and books have come out really to try to paint a connection between cancer and all different health conditions and disorders to our diet. Absolutely, there is a connection to things such as diabetes, high cholesterol, heart disease, to definitely what we eat and in terms of activity. Specifically on what is being put in terms of bulking up this meat or having these animals eat certain things or be injected with certain things, they are still doing studies as to which chemicals are directly related. So I'm not going to talk this afternoon to say this chemical is bad, because these studies are really ongoing. Again, just as a citizen, I am a vegetarian vegan outside of what, just my upbringing. I always say I'm a vegetarian vegan, just the same reason why you eat meat. I am the same way, just because that's what was in my household and what was put on my plate. But
and yet your mom had cancer though, and you had cancer. So one could.
Absolutely. So another piece of the puzzle, and people will try to say, if you eat this, then you will get that. And they don't take into account your genes and your genetics. So there have been a lot of studies, and I have to look to see exactly what the name of the researcher was. She came to the NIH, she gave this great presentation, how she went all the way back to, I forget what country it was in Africa. And she was able to trace back the same tribe village that then migrated to a certain part in Michigan. And she found that tribe or village that had, of course, been brought over in terms of slavery, have the genes to have increased blood pressure. So as a result, that certain area in Michigan now has a nice display of darker skinned Black people, basically. And they were able to trace it back to the lineage of Africa, of them having this specific gene that happened to be turned on that causes them to have high blood pressure. Now, back when they were in the motherland, maybe them having high blood pressure was some advantage, or whatever.
Like sickle cell for malaria.
Exactly, right. Exactly. Some advantage at that time. That isn't an advantage to being in that certain part of Michigan and then having to go through the sadness and the trials and tribulations in terms of our working conditions. So I say all that to say, yes, be careful with what you eat, be careful with what you drink, be mindful of what you're putting into your body, both physically and just emotionally, what you pour into yourself. But also be cognizant that our genes are some things that we don't have control over. So there was nothing I did wrong to be able to get thyroid cancer. But in terms of just history, my dad also had a history of thyroid cancer. So, that had to have been passed to him. And so he sadly passed it to me. So
do you think your diet helped you fight it?
I don't know, Karen.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it.
Say yes or no.
Listen, we are just looking. I started off the show today, honoring the great Sekou, and Sekou, and wondering, for us, the sadness comes in like the mortality that we have to contemplate every day. So I think it gives us comfort to know, well, if I do this and I do this and I do this, then I won't get that, like we're trying to hack life and not really just live it, because you don't know what's going to happen. It's going to rain on all of us. Something's going to happen. It just is life. Is how you deal with the things that come your way.
Absolutely.
That determines your success here.
Let me tell you, so life is not and never will be black and white. There is no if this, then that. There's always a workaround. There's always somebody you can talk to who'll hook you up with that. So just remember that is in every context. And so you just have to live the best life that you can live. That's, I work to live by the 5 agreements. Do the best that you can do. Am I going to say these right? Do the best that you can do. Be skeptical, but listen. Always, now I have to remember what the other 3 are. Somebody help me with the 5.
All right, they'll do it on Twitter. Somebody help us out here. And I'll Google search it. We'll find them because I'm reading the 4 agreements right now.
Yeah, but they added the 5th one. The 5th one is be skeptical, but listen. Oh, don't make assumptions. So I have 3.
Have impeccable
with your word. Oh, this is a work in progress. I got to be impeccable with my word. So you can't gossip about people. So we're working on this. And what's the 5th one, you guys? I got to remember what the 5th one is. Anyway, so you just do the best that you can do. And in that context, there is no if this, then that. There is no just black and white type answer for anything, Karen.
All right, really quickly, because I want to get some callers in as well. Why did you do oncology? Why that?
Yeah.
Particular pediatric oncology.
Pediatric neuro-oncology. So I'll give you the short version. I've always been curious, always really been passionate about the STEM field. My parents had me to go to math and science camps growing up, just great in terms of supporting me and saying there's no limitation and just advocating for me to be there and be curious about science. And really when family and friends started to be affected by cancer, and I saw it in the news all the time. We talked about it in these summer camps and in school. I was like, cancer, I want to find the cure to cancer. Like it has to go. So that was way before myself or my parents were diagnosed with cancer. And so then it came a point in medical school where I said, well, do I want to deal with children or do I want to deal with adults? Now, we don't like taking our medications. We don't like coming back to the doctor. We don't like taking ownership of our illness. In contrast, if you're a parent, you don't ever want to see your child sick. You don't ever want them to have to go to the doctor time and time again. So as parents, I found that parents do a better job of ensuring that the child takes their medicine, comes back for doctor's appointments.
Gotcha.
It's just well taken care of. And I said, I can't deal with us adults who are just all over the place. So I landed on pediatric oncology, and that's just where my heart has been since then.